Robert. Yes. I don't see Brent, I don't see Carol, John. Norm, I'm here, Bill. Not here, Christine, here, Todd. Here. Patrick. Yep. Yeah.
He asked me yesterday if I was making a big.
Anybody have anything to say about the minutes? I'll make approval of the minutes, we'll ask the meeting.
So moved.
The move to second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting's passed, the minutes have passed. You have anything from the public, Tim, prior to the meeting?
Not a word.
Not a word, okay? Obviously, guys here today. Anybody from the committee have any questions or concerns or items they want to talk to the guy about?
Later. Yes, Ron. So what's the timeline? Do you figure?
On a high level. First, start with this, listening today is Frank Chedbry. We will get you his contact information, he's a dredging operation supervisor. He will be the primary contact, the guy on site here with our teams when we do this. We're gonna go out hopefully today, meet the property owner, we'll build a hole in south. It's my hope to be able to work with him to kind of stake out that boundary. I want to go over and take a look at the dredge area, and I think it's Riviera Park, up there. But in terms of timing, at a very high level, we see having the holding cell constructed and the pipelines built, say between August 1st and August 15th. And then between August 15th and October 15th, we'll actually be pumping, dredging operations and moving through the dredge area.
When did you say that last part again?
August 15th, October 15th. Which leaves us wiggle room in terms of time, because sometimes things happen in the world of dredging. There's things that have to be repaired. So, in a perfect world, we'd only be dredging for a month. But I always double what I think we do it because I'm not used to it.
And I know that originally George was worried about some portion, the northern portion, I think it was, of the dredge. What, you had a portion you were concerned it needed to be mechanical, but
We're gonna go look at that.
Well, we're gonna-
Today.
We're gonna look at it. When I was over there a couple weeks ago, and I don't know, these are questions that I'm bringing to the table. I don't know how close the putter head can get to a shoreline. I know it can work in the middle, of course, but, right along the seawall is where we have cattails and things like that. And honestly, it may be more clay in there, I don't know, but the middle, of course, is your lighter sediments.
But to answer that question, you know, George, our dredges can get very close to that seawall.
Okay,
Our standard in our proposals is that we don't go closer than 10 foot, and that's a very high level number. I mean, guys can't, nail 11 foot every time, but I mean, within a reasonable semblance, And the only reason we do that, there's nothing in your permit that says we can't dredge up to your seawall. But there's a lot of verbiage in our quotes that says I'm not gonna be responsible if that seawall
What?
falls in. I mean,
Right.
we don't know what
I
to
remember
put in with. So we'll go as close as you want. As long as you guys recognize we're not gonna hold liability for destruction of those. Similarly, even if it's natural shoreline, we worry about shoreline destabilization. So we don't want to, go closer than 10 foot to, natural shoreline. So we're gonna be dredging.
Looking for a map.
Now I was looking for a whiteboard. Draw pictures on it. So when you're dredging, I think our dredge depth is like 5 foot. I don't remember.
roughly, yeah.
Probably a water depth of 5 foot, right? So we're gonna dredge, and basically the dredge doesn't cut a slope like this, right? You're dredging a box, so you dredge down to 5 foot, maybe we're removing 3 foot, I'm guessing, 4 foot of material, right? and that dredge is swinging like this and it's cutting the box. And the dredge doesn't cut like a slope up like you would think it would. We cut this box down to that 5 foot water depth. And then Mother Nature's gonna do the rest of it. It's called slumping. And that material, like between 10 foot of shoreline, between where we're dredging and a 10 foot of shoreline, with wind action, wave action, in this case, action of the river, will eventually slump down if it's muck and organic. It usually falls down to about a 3-to-1 slope, with time. So originally, when you do the dredge, it's almost like it's a drop off there. But, with time, it will slump and slope down to a more of a natural grade.
So then in your 5 foot dredge box, you can raise that same equipment and then spread your box bigger at a shallower depth.
It's stair stepping.
You could step in. Instead of taking your 5 foot, you back it off to go 3. To
Yes.
get closer to the seawall and things like that.
Yes, we can do that, we can absolutely. So a lot of times a common dredge width is about a 50 foot path, okay?
Okay.
Some of this area will probably be 2 paths to get, I think some of it's up to 100 foot wide. I'd have to go back and measure.
Yeah.
So where we'd have to do 2 passes of the dredge to cover that 100 foot wide, it was 150 foot wide, we do 3 passes, right? So what we've done in other situations, I don't have, we've got drawings on our phones, that we use Onyx a lot for where the hole cell is and where the dredge path is. So like in that narrows between the island, right? I don't know how wide that is in there.
It's not very wide.
And maybe it's only 50 foot wide, I don't know, but as we're working our way through there. On larger water bodies, we'll take like the first step off the shore, which is what we did on Lake Shamrock. Our first step off the shore was cut at 3.5 foot deep. And then our second 50 foot wide pass, we dropped it down to 6 foot. So it helps to create that slumping when you're doing it. But if we're in this area, it's particularly in the narrows, we'll work through that as we attack it, because each one of them is.
They're the same but different.
Yeah, every time we move with the dredge, it's same but different. Exactly.
Now, is this equipment then, is it tethered? North to south, or is it tethered to the shoreline?
It's tethered to the shore. We have to use swing lines to move the dredge back and forth. So we'll use trees and anchor points. You'll see our teams, if there are suitable trees to move or to anchor the dredge for these waterfront property owners, we'll be working on their properties. We got the dredge. Again, at a very high level, doesn't pull more than 1,000 pounds, with each of the swing line winches. But it's the only way the dredge moves. The dredge has no motor or propulsion in it. When you're stepping a dredge and you're swinging it back and forth, there's spuds on the back of it. So you make a swing, raise the spud, lower the other one, and that indexes you forward each swing about 1 foot, roughly. Depending on the width of that swing, so.
Well, when you and I have discussed it, the very north end of that, where the little,
Sandbar is?
where the sandbar is, that's accessible over to the island. From that area north, as we talked last night, I'm not sure what we really have there, and that's why we talked about.
That's why I wanna go out and look at it, with Frank. And we'll determine, a lot of times when we're moving, in essence, an island or this sandbar that is above water, right? You take our dredge and you undercut that, you just keep dredging forward, it falls in, you keep dredging. If it's material that's of a loose sand nature, that's exactly what we'll do. If we think there's gonna be a problem with that, we might roll up. Is that park that I'm talking about is that Riviera?
That's Playa Park there,
It's what?
Playa Park.
Playa Park is on.
Next one north.
That finger is. Playa and the Riviera is down farther south. So we're gonna go and look at Playa Park. See if we need to get an excavator in it, we'll walk out on the sandbar hopefully today. See what type of material or vegetation's on it, if any. If I think it's a problem, we might just come in and spray it, kill it off, that makes it better. We'll see if we need to remove it, try to ascertain what structure may be in, any plant communities is growing on that. So, we do this all the time where we just undercut it and it falls in. But I think it's gonna be a problem, Frank and I will look at it today, you can bring our mini excavator in, maybe that's all we need to loosen up the end of that material. Not that we're gonna haul it out of there, we're not gonna, bucket it out and haul it on the dump truck. But rather just loosen the material so the dredge can pick it up and pump it up to the whole facility.
Can you put your mini on your grid?
No. Now, our mini is too big, it's not a mini, it's like a cat 307 access, on 16,000 pounds, so it's not a small mini, it'll probably float on.
Yep.
Well, if you tether then to the stationary object trees, in this case, inside the island, behind the homes there, that's really not gonna be an issue. That's not a thoroughway of the river. But once you get south of the island, you're gonna be tethering, that's where you're hitting your 100 feet, 130 feet wide area.
Okay.
You're gonna be tethering side to side across the entire river.
All the way across the river, potentially.
Somehow, we're gonna have, for safety and liability, ultimately, make sure that people know that maybe aren't even aware of this, that are outside of Lake Isabella, that go and throw the boat in and go fishing down in the lake. That is not illegal for them to do or anything like that. That is just, it's part of a inland waterway. Somehow we're gonna have to let them know by buoy or something, safety, regulatory buoys to let them know that something's happening.
Yeah, there's a swing line or wire, we have signage that we can put out on the shores. We have buoys. I don't know until we get into it, we're gonna anchor all the way across the river to trees on that side. So we have very large Danforth anchors that weigh a couple 100 pounds that, if there's just no good place to anchor for solid trees, then we can use these Danforth anchors. I have to use them, but then you wouldn't have a swing line going all the way across the river if we use those. But yeah, we mark them well. Our operators know to watch for boaters. They can actually take and release the swing line, let it drop for boaters to pass over it. So I don't know if in our last meeting I shared with you, so I might be repeating myself. My apologies if I did, but did I ever send you guys a link to our YouTube page?
I don't think so.
We've got if you Google Savin Lake Services YouTube, you can go out there and watch a multitude of videos about dredging operations if you really want to see it. There's a short too, they're kind of, my video guy they're a little gimmicky, but it is what it is. He does a good job. But we've done 2 of them on Lake Shamrock. One is a 2 or 3 minute video. And then one is called Savin Stories, where we're telling the whole story of that whole project. That one's 15, 16 minutes long. There's jobs out there where we did it at the Bay City Yacht Club, so you can see the pipeline, floating buoys, and we have boats coming in and out of the mouth of the river all the time in the Bay City Yacht Club. So you can see that one. There's some videos out there of dredging project down at Sandpoint. So it's a real, you just don't have any understanding, any baseline understanding of what building a holding cell is, where we're pumping it to. You guys watch those videos, you'll get a very solid understanding of what we're gonna be doing out there. In terms of pumping, pipeline management, swing line management, things of that. So, well, take a look at those, you'll get a better idea. Bay City Yacht Club has like a 2-stage holding cell, we don't need to build that here. But you'll see pipes and you'll see pipes floating on the water in those videos. But if I'm just teasing for you. Oh, geez. This is what happens when you're behind us.
Sneaky.
Okay, so this one's at Elk Rapids. Pipeline floating, we just dredged that again this year. That's a dredge job we do every year. So you got the floating pipeline.
Now, do you happen to have one in there on your library there of a river? Is this, are these just like inlets or?
Well, that was the Elk Rapids Harbor. You can see the pipeline, you can see the hole in the south. This particular one was on the beach. So we built it in two sections so we could pump into one while we're excavating sand out of the other. And you can see there where we're pumping into the second part of the hole we saw there. This video was actually 3 years ago. We've done this 3 times for them now. It's a sandy shoal inlet up in Elk Rapids and it fills in every year. They gotta dredge it every year. If. Trying to think of the ones that are out there to answer your questions. You could do the short, not the Savin stories, maybe show them the there should be one out there for Shamrock. That's a pretty good shorter video.
Yeah.
I'm
having an ad blocker on this.
Can you get sound on it, Ben?
Yeah.
Because it tells the story.
There.
Here we see this case study 24.09 Delta, the Clare Dredging Project. Fall 2024, Clare, Michigan. Once upon a time, the city of Clare had a beautiful lake right within the city limits. Over the last 3 decades, silt and sand entering Lake Shamrock from the Tobacco River accumulated so much debris that new islands actually started forming. Savin Lake Service's goals: restore Shamrock to its original splendor so everyone can once again enjoy kayaking, canoeing, fishing, and even a new beach. Meet Little Blue and Red Rover. These 2 dredges have the ability to move nearly 80 metric tons of sand and silt every hour out of the lake and into a massive retention pond over a mile away. No small task. This custom-built retention pond filters the water and returns it right back to the Tobacco River. Call Savin Lake Services to solve your lake dredging problems today. Savin Lake Services.
Watching
It's
it.
a Michigan thing.
Hold on. Guy Savin has stolen our line. Don't worry, Rhino. I made a trade. And what would that be? You know how the St. Patrick's Day's coming up, right? It's huge here in Brent. And it's used in Chicago and they turn the river there green. That's very cool. Savin Lake Services has got a pipeline from that river. They're gonna take it all the way up to Shamrock and turn Shamrock Lake green for everything. There's no way they can do that, Bubba. They sure can. They've got a big truck. There's nothing Savin Lake Services won't do for us or donuts. And remember, cops and donuts, it's a Michigan thing.
Those guys are hilarious. My video guy did that. I had no idea he was even working with Greg and Bubba, you know. So that shows you some of the Lake Shamrock, the Savin stories. That one's like 16 minutes long if you want to know more about that project. Let me see.
Got Sandpoint, you got. Yeah,
Go Bay City Yacht Club. That'd be a good one.
that's the old ads on this. There we go.
Document 5 Beta, the Bay City Yacht Club Maintenance Dredging Project. Bay City, Michigan. The Bay City Yacht Club. The main channel to the Saginaw River requires regular dredging to clear the waterway of sand, silt, and debris left behind by the ebb and flow of the Saginaw River. Savin employs a fascinating process to clear the channel and protect the environment. Each mighty bank, a 20-ton dredge that moves 100 tons of sand and silt per day. As our dredge clears the channel, the debris are pumped through a buoyant pipeline until it reaches the shore. From there, we extend the pipeline over land. We even create temporary bridges for vehicle traffic. Next, the pipeline continues to a massive holding cell. At this site, water and soil flows from one end of the holding cell to the other, where gravity does the magic separating the two. The water then flows to the next cell, where it has additional time to settle. After that, clear water flows back into the Saginaw River. All this is accomplished with very little impact on boat and vehicle traffic. Contact Savin Lake Services to solve lake dredging problems today.
So how many cubic yards is 10 metric tons?
I don't know, he made that shit, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
We're at a high level, in numbers we understand, we got about 11,000
Little over, yeah, a little over.
cubic yards, we think, right? And a dredge on average. Pump curves, everything changes, but just use the number, round number, 40 cubic yards an hour, so. On a 12-hour shift, we're gonna pump about 500 cubic yards. So we got, 11,000, you got 22 days of dredging. A dredge in muck and organics will move forward. We're dredging a 50-foot wide swath. We're only gonna move forward about 75 foot in a day, so we kind of combine the cubic yard pumping capability along with, we'll eventually lay out dredge pathways. Matt Novotny, our operations manager, does that. We actually use GPS in our dredges, called an Agfinity system, so our operators can see a very defined path. And everything we do is data logged to the point you'll actually see the swing of the dredges when we get you these reports. We know we didn't miss any areas. We know that we've covered those areas. And so it gives them a pretty rigid guideline, boundaried in the dredge so they could see the areas that we're working in. So then we roll back. So we kind of use cubic yards as a barometer. That would lead me to believe 22 days of dredging. We gotta also go back and lay out those dredge pathways, those 75-foot forward, 50-foot wide, to see how we accomplish the dredge area. And then, that leads us to another facet of looking at how long it's going to take us to do it, so. Okay.
Now, are you still proposing to have a lift station or a sludge pump, whatever you call that?
Don't know.
Up in Carmen?
We're pumping 7,000 feet at Lake Shamrock. The video you just saw pumping into the hole cell that's at the airport is 7,000 feet away, and we've been doing that without a boost pump. It's all muck and organics. We may or may not need it. If we're pumping a bunch of sand, we might need to stage in a boost pump, which is why we kind of leave that optional. We gotta figure out, if we're gonna do it, where we're gonna put it, how we get fuel to it. We can float our boost pump on a work barge if we have to. We don't like to. We'd much rather put it on a trailer somewhere on shore, run our pipelines to the boost pump. If there is a suitable location to do that. If I was gonna put one in, obviously, roughly, I think we got about a 7,000-foot pipeline from the lowest or south point of the dredge area to the holding cell location. We'll define that and start looking, if we're gonna put a boost pump in, we're gonna try to put it in somewhere halfway. Don't know if there's anybody's properties out there that would let us do that, or empty properties or things of that nature.
Right.
Halfway up, I saw some, like the field right there, maybe,
Well, the association's got
Well,
Carmen Park over here.
Carmen Park, we could get to the north end of that, but.
how far is that away from the dredge area?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that would.
Let's see.
Here's the island. Oh, there's the island right here. This is where the berm is, the sand berm. We've gotta clean this out up in here. This has gotten really shallow. It's all depositing in here.
Oh, yeah,
But Carmen Park, you go in.
right where the dot is.
like-
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
about
there you go.
2,000 feet, give or take.
Is that about 2,000 feet? Well, you're not even
Roughly.
down to the south of the dredge area there, Tim.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, we're over here, so.
yeah, so
Yeah.
if we go down there to the bottom
So
here.
that might be a good location to look at today, determine suitability for placement of that.
Well, it does have a road down in there.
Yeah.
Look like,
Park.
look
Okay.
like
I
they
wanna
have to
go-
be cut back a little bit,
Yeah.
but.
Straight line is 2,500 feet.
Well, if it's only 2,500 feet from the south dredge area,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a good place to do it, that's gonna help if we need to.
Yeah.
And it keeps, you know, like association properties are not about
100%.
residents and you have access to get the field back and forth here.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that would be definitely a good place to go, today. Is the property owner here?
Lucky, right there.
Oh, I apologize, I don't know if I mentioned lucky guy Savin, thank you. So my intent is after we leave here today and we've answered any questions, I wanna follow you back to your gravel pit, if you're amiable to that.
Yep.
And then Frank and I want to work with you to stake out the boundaries, make sure it makes sense to you. Going to go through with you where the, plan is to put the pipelines and the return water pipelines. Typically, we're gonna have one line coming from the dredge, 3 return water lines, taking water back to the river, you know. And then talk to you about like maybe using some of your property there, if we could use it as a work site. And then after we do that, and we're all on the same page, then Frank and I are probably gonna go look at the sand finger, and maybe we'll run by Carmen Park. Just to determine suitability for those areas, so. I know we've got this all drawn out in our app. Onyx Hut, it's a hunting app, and it shows property lines, but it works great for us. Because we can lay out boundaries, we can see property lines, and it's usually accurate to within like 10 foot, it's not, you know. DGPS that's, you know, accurate to within 3 inches, but it does what we need it to do. The GPS that we use in our dredges that my teams will be dredging by is DGPS, so it wasn't able DGPS way above my head. But anyway, it's accurate within about 6 inches, so the actual dredge area, you know, will be much better defined, but for what we're doing here. You know, we're gonna go up there and work with you, Lucky, to stake it out, make sure you're happy. And we're not doing anything you don't want us to do there.
You're also welcome to use our DPW yard for any laydown or staging that you need to while you're just bringing crap out, you know.
The building that we're going around, is that your garage or your office up there for the gravel pit?
That is, my workshop where I just kind of have fun. All right, that's where I borrow it.
That's where I want to be at, exactly.
I get dirty and greasy.
So.
Does Mrs. Lucky
Here's
call it
your
your doghouse?
existing gravel pit, right?
What's that?
This is your existing.
That's an
pit,
active gravel pit. We
Right.
didn't wanna go near
And
it.
generally speaking, we're building this kind of like around your workshop, over here, up here, I think we're staying in this field, back into here.
How
Something
big
like
an
that.
area you talking? When you come out of this bridge, my property starts right there, so you could actually. I don't think I got that big time. Run that pipe right up here to get to.
Oh, not even have to call the river, so come under the bridge and we can cut through the pipeline to get in here, we might do that. Instead of coming all the way, we were
Where you're
planning.
gonna end up actually is right up in here. You could come like this way. Go along up there and back down if you want.
Okay, well, we've got it, we'll walk it with you, we got a boundary in our phones. Yeah, but that might help us, Frank, if we get under this bridge. And then we can take the short route through the trees, you know, to get the pipeline
Or
from
if you
here.
wanna stay in the water, you can cut across right there.
Yeah,
That'd be.
well, we wanna, generally what we do, we'll come up here, go through here. And say we're gonna return water out here back to the river, cause it's the shortest distance. We wanna pump to the farthest point, so maybe we'll pump from the dredge here, which means that we came under the road. Through the river, over the berm right here, and pump in here, and then we return the water back to the river up there,
Yeah.
you know? Yes. And that's why we wanted to go out there with you, we got a boundary in our phones, you know? But that way, all I do is I'm not too bright, I just walk around with a phone in my hand and follow that line that we've got boundary, you know?
Yeah.
Make sure we're not putting anywhere that you don't want it to be, you know? And we'll kind of lay out the stake out and orange upside down marking paint layout.
How long does it take this thing to de-water and dry out?
We will do the project this fall. Be done by October 15th. What's your property up there, sand or clay?
Oh, mainly sand,
Okay.
gravel and sand.
So the typical, depending on what we're pumping, we don't know if it's mostly muck and organics. There might be a possibility we could close this holding cell for you next year. Sometimes that muck and organics can take a couple years. We're gonna build a pond basically on your property. We're gonna pump into it. And let's just say we stack this, let's just say it's all 6 foot of muck, right? That could take a couple years to dry out, particularly if you're in a clay environment. Now, if water will go down because you're all sand, that's gonna make it quicker.
Yeah.
So if the muck dries out, then we build this pond, right? You saw some of them, right? You saw the Lake Shamrock. You saw the Bay City Yacht Club. If that muck dries out sufficiently, we can take those berms that we built to make that pond and we start folding it over that muck and organics right there. We'll float it out for you. We're not gonna leave you with these steep banks that look like this, but we'll float that property out, blend it in. Virtually if you come into the property and you never knew what it looked like before, you just think it's a gentle rolling hill, And I tell you, Frank knows, there was a job that he just finished closing in a hole I saw for a customer on Lake Pier last fall. For a dredging project we did 3 years earlier, it took a very long time to dry. You will not be unhappy when we're done.
Yeah.
We will make sure that whatever we produce after, so maybe next year, if this is all sand and it dries well, maybe next fall we can close this holding cell up. I can't tell you, I don't know how much it's gonna rain, but generally, if you're in sand and it dries well, I would think maybe a year from now, we could come in and start folding this over that material, and finishing up your property and giving it back to you. The worst case, maybe the following summer, I don't know.
Yeah.
That would fix fine. Make sense to you, Lucky?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. We might, I don't know what these are, if these trees are still there, we might have to push them out of the way, I'm not sure. We could leave them there, but if we build them in the middle of the holding cell, it's gonna kill them.
Yeah.
So, and depending, we got a D5 dozer that we may bring up, we're gonna bring up actually, because that'll be in Lake Panema and Fenton. We've got another dozer, we've got a PC 220 Komatsu excavator if we've got to dig those out, that type of thing, so. Other questions?
Are you going to start at the top? Or are you going to start at the bottom and work up? Are you going
Probably at the-
upstream or downstream?
Probably at the bottom, working up. We built out the entirety of the length of the pipeline that we need. I don't know, we noticed that you wouldn't know necessarily, but in the Bay City Yacht Club, we use what's called a fusion welder. Cuts the ends of the pipe off, dresses them off, got a heat plate, take the heat plate out, squish the ends of the 2 pieces of pipe together. We have other flanges and quick connects and other things we use, but we prefer to fusion weld our pipeline together because, well, it just doesn't leak. So, what we like to do is build out to the longest length. We bring a loop behind the dredge. And that way, as the dredge is moving forward through this, to the east of this island, we'll have plenty of pipeline behind us to create forward mobility. Otherwise, if we're gonna dredge from the south down, we got a big loop in the river somewhere so we can get the forward mobility or, and then we gotta fuse more pipe in and like that. So we always try to build them where we build the pipeline out to begin with. And then the dredge just continues to have the ability to move. So that all sounds good at the high level, doesn't it? Almost sounds like I know what I'm talking.
Yeah, you got a question here.
I got 2 questions, one for you and one for George. When you start putting that overall egg beater in there, how much silt is gonna come up into the water column and head downstream? Is there a lot of it? Is it gonna change the color to the lake for a while?
muck and organics will create turbidity, sand won't. When you saw that Elk Rapids video, you could see it was crystal clear. The majority is being sucked up, right? It's a cutter head suction dredge, so when we're moving it, it's being pumped up through the pipeline. I won't tell you that there won't be some silt sediment that will be clouded around the cutter head. So. Yeah, if it's much organic, you're gonna see a cloud around and some of it's gonna go out straight. It's not a huge amount and nobody on the lake is gonna notice it. I'm trying to be careful here. The permits require us to put a turbidity curve in around the dredge area. The problem is Eagle that permits this stuff is, nobody here from Eagle, right? Just sometimes stupid. Like, so how would we enclose this? Well, I can put a turbidity current across the river. You think a turbidity current in that river is gonna stop it? No, it's not. So we can put it in, we can fake it to make it if Eagle shows up. All it's gonna do is lift the tail and load the turbidity current there. In fact, it's funny because if you go. The city of Clare, right, they own the city of Clare Lake Shamrock dredging project, right, because the lake is owned by the city, but they did the same thing, they put a turbidity across the curtain across that dam you saw in that video. Because Eagle requires it. All it is it's in there and it's all tied up in a ball about that wide, because there's no way to truly install a turbidity curtain in a river, so. Well, you know, we might do that if we need
My
to.
question for George was, we should have somewhere when Riviera seawall went in, some kind of records on when that went in, how deep it went. Cause we used to be able to pull boats up to that thing, so it's gotta be in there pretty deep. But it'd be nice to know when that was put in and what kind of
For us, we don't
conditions.
know if they're wood, we don't know if you drove 6-foot sheet steel in and for steel, 12-foot, we don't know. I have no way of telling.
We have any
We will
records?
dredge as close as you tell us to that seawall, what can get within a couple feet of it. If it falls in, I own no responsibility.
Do we have records of that thing? Nowhere. No. When it went in, how deep it is?
I can tell you from being out there, that seawall was put in sometime in the 1970s.
Yeah, it's old.
Back before
Is
there
it
wasn't an
wood?
island.
Well, it's concrete. Oh, concrete.
It's concrete and it's two different elements. There's one part that's like a curb almost
Yeah.
that there's erosion underneath of it and it's just a 8-inch chunk of concrete on top of the soil that people would moor off to. And then as you get to the north of the launch, you have more like Jersey barrier type segments that I'm thinking are probably just sitting on bottom, you know, something like that. They backfilled around it, but
It probably wasn't much of a permit process back then.
no, I would think not.
No, they can do whatever they want.
And nobody's around that remembers when they did permit it, so you know.
I probably can find you a photo real quick, cause we have.
I mean, I've seen photos with boats tied to it, old photos. It was a long time ago. And it was redredged back in '93, I know that.
I think I would just be careful getting too close to it, because if you undermine that.
Create more
footing,
problems.
it's
Well, we don't
gonna-
wanna undermine the footing on it, of course.
Right, but I mean,
Well, what, can you bring that back up? I mean, like, I don't know where the seawall is we're talking about. Is it in the Narrows where it's only, east of that island, right?
It's actually south of the island.
South of the island.
So, you know, I mean, if we're working in Narrows in the island, you know, we wanna stay 10 foot away from the island and 10 foot away from the shore, that means we're gonna dredge 30 foot wide.
Yeah,
And where it slumps is where it slumps. Yeah,
This is actually south of the island. You know,
okay, that's
after
what we're talking about down there.
from here to here roughly.
Yeah, there's actually a landing in there too, where you can pull a boat in and out.
It's only 8 foot wide too.
Landing it?
Yeah, that's a whole nother deal.
We're gonna restore that landing?
If you got a
Might.
skinny enough, if you got a skinny enough trailer,
8 foot's not wide enough to get a trailer on it anyway.
not an
Or
8.5
modern
foot
boats that
pontoon.
are out now. So that might be something else you want to add to your. Just
You know, when we don't have to mind.
project down the road, is just redo that whole seawall and put it across the boat.
Yeah, cause we talked at a meeting or two ago, you know, George and I went out with Jerry in the backhoe and poked around before the water came too high up, and there, you know, there's that much muck still at the end of that boat ramp that we just don't know what condition it's in
Yeah.
right now, that
Well,
if need be in 27 or 26,
Right.
we can replace that launch, so.
Right.
the thing is, at that meeting, the people said, the couple people that were in there said that boat launch was really long. And it goes way out.
Mhm.
And that's why we went over there with the backhoe. We were able to see. And he got out the tires, back tires were in the water about this deep, and he had an extended hole and he had it out all the way. And he had to actually move the muck. The muck was probably about that thick up
But
there.
it's still hitting concrete.
And still tapping just to see if concrete's out there, and it was.
Okay.
Which means, when you think about it logically, that shallow, you know, towards the ramp, that launch could have been all the way over to the channel at the time.
Yeah.
Which is 60, 70 feet out.
Yeah.
You know, we can't reach out that far with the back
Very
right.
shallow too. It's not that, it's real
Yeah.
shallow.
But that's something like Tim said, we can address.
Sure, exactly. Well, you know, when it comes down to it,
Along
we can
with the
address,
seawall.
we can address it
Yeah, like-
as a seawall and the boat launch.
Long
I
story.
feel like if you're gonna,
Yeah.
you're gonna clean it up and be able to park boats there and have that ramp, it should be usable for people.
I agree.
That's probably.
Let's make it usable. We're cleaning it up to make it usable. Let's make sure it is.
Yeah, like south of the launch, it's a glorified curve. I mean, that's
That's south.
that's south of the launch, that's basically a curve, is what's there,
It's a curve. It's a curve.
for lack of a better
Is
term.
this one of the areas we're dredging?
Yeah.
Say south of.
That's the south edge of South Riviera. Down to that white sign.
Seeing down, you see where that white house or where that white trailer is down there? That project goes,
That white trailer's about 6 lots past Phil Park.
Yeah,
oh gosh.
yeah, cause it comes back in and. it
Yeah,
comes out.
you can't see the first two.
No.
I'm the
you can't.
second lot. You can't see the first two
I
lots
was
there.
thinking it went down to here.
No,
I think it
Was
goes.
it, where's, oops, oh gosh. The guy that used to ride his golf cart at 5K. Don't think his name though.
That Max?
Max Picnic?
Picnic, yeah.
He's four
That's where-
houses,
that's
he's
where
four
my
houses
last
down
stake
from the
was.
park.
That was
Yeah.
my last state
Okay.
when I did the test.
Yeah, Max is down over
Right in
here.
here, I think.
Yeah,
See, so the island's way up there
way up here,
and he's got a brown house, I remember that. So that's
Yeah.
the end.
yeah. Max has got the corner at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all those cattails that Tim was just showing, there's the launch.
Are they still there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, can you go back to that picture, Tim, that you just had up?
They're here, see.
So just like theoretically, what we would normally do, I mean, I can't judge distances, but, you know, 10 foot's out here somewhere, right? Maybe we come in here, we can cut the cattails out if you want us to, but it's also good shoreline stabilization, so, you know, but I think.
But when the water's up, this is when we're in drawdown.
Yeah,
I see the river.
but I think the cattails are still there during.
Yeah.
The summer, right?
Yeah, and so here, our new island is right here. That has been created because of the eddy,
Uh-huh.
and it's organic.
Okay.
But you can see how wide this is, it follows the channels on the far side, so you know, wrapped around in here, which we got going to have. It's not as wide down, so,
Yeah.
because we have more flow, but.
See if I can get a better aerial from that. If that is-
Right there. Here you go.
There's that launch right there. So this is what we're cutting out, Frank.
Right here. See that, and follows, those are channels, it's following, we got good flow through there. And all these deposits are basically in this eddy and it's creating this new
This
island.
is actually south of the island, there's the island right
Yep.
there, right?
Yes,
There's
sir.
the Y, this is the area we're going up through
This-
Frank here.
Yep. Right up to
So
the-
yeah, so I mean, like, you guys gotta decide, I mean, normally we'd stay 10 foot away from that seawall. And you can see what'll happen is if we cut up into there, and eventually that's gonna slump down, you know?
Maybe. And it's good, we'll test the time so far.
So I'm not talking about your seawall, I'm talking about the muck and organic.
Oh, gotcha.
When we cut 10 foot away from here, what eventually is this will start sloughing off and filling that pocket to roughly a 3-to-1 slope. You know what I mean? So it isn't gonna be like you're saying, well, we're never gonna get to the muck and organics out of there. With time, Mother Nature's gonna do that for us. It's gonna create that slumping in that event, so.
I just say you go as close as you dare, George. You gotta redo that seawall as part of another, 2 years from now, then you gotta redo it.
Yeah, I'm sure we could also figure something out if we want to do it with backhoe or
Yeah.
rent a
And it's
mini.
like 10 foot
We just come out and bring it in tight manually and then use the dump trailer, that kind of stuff and haul it out.
That's hard bottom.
Yeah.
Well,
When you go,
that-
when you get into this seawall,
Sure not-
you step into it, you may not want to come out.
This is.
Yeah, it's
What I gotta tell you, so you guys all understand this. You guys all understand this. We ran into the same problem at Lake Shamrock. And what we've done there is, so our dredge has to cut at a minimum depth of 3.5 foot. Because between the floating and we got like freshwater intakes underneath the dredge. If we don't cut 3.5 foot, we can't move the dredge through an area. So, but the dredge doesn't move stone, it doesn't move hard pan, it doesn't move clay. So, on Lake Shamrock, we ran into a situation like, we told Jeremy we'd get to 10 foot, as a high level rule. But when we started cutting through there, it was all hard pan and we couldn't cut it. And if we can't cut it, we can't float it.
Right.
So 3.5 foot, so like on Shamrock, we stepped 10 foot away, did our first 50-foot cut. But some of it, we even had to step out from that because we couldn't cut the clay or the hard pan that was under it, or we find veins of stone, Sand and muck is what our dredge will move. It won't big stones, it won't cut hard pan, it won't cut clay. So we gotta play this by ear. So if this is hard under here and it's sand, no problem, we can cut it. If we hit hard pan in there, we gotta step out. Because if we can't cut 3.5 foot, we can't float the dredge.
Yeah, you need that position.
Yes, so like we were talking earlier, the first pass on Shamrock, we stayed 10 foot off, we were cutting to 3.5 foot. To try to create that step. Then our next 50-foot pass is when we started cutting, I think we went to 5 foot. On the next 50-foot wide pass, and then the third pass out, we went down to the 6.5 foot dredge depth. To kind of emulate that step. In an area shoreline like this, we can do that. When we get into here, we may not have all the flexibility to create, we don't have 150-foot wide, we're working it. So. We'll work together as we work through that. We could cut maybe 50-foot wide, to 5 to 6 foot deep in here, but we're gonna run a big risk of eroding that island and your shoreline through there. So maybe we don't wanna do that.
And at the island area, it is deeper at the south end of the island in terms of the water than up in the north end, because it's, that's the path of siltation, is it plugged up the north end more than the south, and then everything you're catching here at Riviera is what's getting blown out as that's coming around the island primarily.
Yeah.
How far north of the island are you going?
We're just going to the north point, are we not?
Well, we'll show you no.
It really is. Ooh, really likes Lakers, I don't know why.
This right here, this is actually, this goes all the way across now. And we do get a little bit of flow, but it's not much. And so what we have to do is open.
You mind stopping on the Onyx on? Can I write on this?
Just log in and do it.
That's what they're trying to. It just pops up. They're going across the channel under that was created, yeah.
So their GPS map app.
Let's try it.
Hey, log in, it's worst happening. Probably have to do like 2-factor authentication, it'll go like your office phone and.
If you know your passwords.
Oh, no, doesn't matter where I'm at, they all would wide across.
Wondered.
Show the password so we can see it.
Yeah.
Yep, see, there it is. It's not SD, it's Savin -123 login. I don't care.
So it's carrying that. Yeah. It's gonna be what the.
Like Spaceballs, I have the same combination on my luggage.
Here, I'll even save the password on your desktop. I don't care.
Goes around, swirls.
Yeah, like after that part that that'd be the city.
So Lucky, here's your property. That's what we're gonna go out and look at today.
Yep.
That is the anticipated current boundaries. And Frankie and I can walk around with you on that boundary and put stakes in and make sure you're happy with it. And then we can figure out where we're gonna bring that pipeline after the bridge through the river, and then we're gonna roll out probably water lines, return water lines somewhere through here. Then we're probably gonna just dump water over the edge of the bank. We're not gonna take it all the way to the river, cause I like to filter it through vegetation if I can before it hits the river.
Yeah,
You know, but if we get water just 10 foot over that bank, right, on what looks like a bank on the edge of your property, it's gonna flow to the river. But if we can, filter that through vegetation before it hits the river, it's always better. So then, we got that drawn in, and then you were asking about the north end of the dredge area.
see this?
So this is kind of the dredge area. I'm blind in my left eye. I can't see it standing over there, Joe.
This is what's coming across now. This is Play Park. And see how this, since that channel is all shifted over now, this is very shallow. The channel is shifted over pretty much all to this western side. Now we're getting all the deposits right here too. So you can see how it's just sweeping around that corner. So that is the north end that we're gonna have to walk up there or go to Play Park, we can see all this. There's cattails there, logs, gravel, sand.
Ticks, there's probably ticks out there too. They're terrible this year.
I can show it to you, cause one of the last things I got a photo of last year before our drone decided it wanted to commit suicide was that area.
Was it operator error?
No, it just up and died mid-flight. That's kind of what you see from Playa Park looking down the river channel.
You can see, this is the island. This is where the seawall starts, and that curves around. This is the island here. This is literally the deeper.
Is this
part
the
of-
sandbar? Are we
No,
standing on the end of the sandbar?
You're standing pretty close to the edge of the sandbar.
The
Right there.
sandbar's right here.
Right over
basically.
here.
Yeah.
And let's see what I
Cause that's how thick that
That's
is.
the finger?
I'm trying to find another.
If you use flowing water.
There's the river channel going that way.
Do we have a
These
lip?
people can't use their dog?
They have a difficult time using their dogs, I imagine. But again, the sandbar is right here.
Let me go back to. I have a whole album for that area called. Maybe. No, we might have a good photo here in that drawdown photo. There you
That
go.
kind of showed it, eh?
Yeah, there you go.
There's the island, there's Playa, and this is. Now, this is from 4 years ago.
See how it's starting to fill in, it's worse now, like, that's catching all the heavier materials that are coming to us. They're dying out right here, and then mostly sediment, the
Yeah.
organics are coming on through.
Oh, that's all organic.
See right in here, this is where that little flow is that you see in those other pictures.
The very little flow that's rolling through there.
See,
Yeah.
this is all.
Was that during drawdown or is that actually?
That's during drawdown.
Drawdown, this is actual real heavy organics in here. I don't know how deep it is there, I know there's an area that's about 8 feet deep.
I can tell you, we were at
Right
about
here.
2.5, 3 feet of drawdown, because the other photos from that time look like that, and that's.
Yeah.
Again, that was 4 years ago. Get back to my.
Yeah, this is great information. Is this out on your Village Lake? Is about.
Yeah, yeah, so like on our,
For you, Frankie, if you wanna see what it looks like during drawdown, you got a whole picture.
Right here, just- under our socials, Facebook, YouTube and Flickr, all this is right on our Flickr page, so. We've tried to keep that. We organize it by year, we organize it by area, so we try and really make it easier for people to figure out where stuff is at. I thought I had one.
I'm still gonna drive when Jim, I was gonna send you drone footage I took last fall.
River, there we go. So the whole album that's just Riviera Park and the river that multiple years. So this is from 23. There's a good view right there.
Yep. And this is the area.
Excuse me for just a moment, I'm gonna move somebody.
And
Yeah, you see how far Valley goes.
yeah. That's the view from Rowland Road looking over at it.
I tried.
Showing filtration over. Hey, that's what the river used to look like.
Yep. I'd like to be able to fill that back in.
This is December of last year.
Yeah, this is the upstream.
Yeah.
The play park right here.
Yeah.
This is that arm that's come out. See, it's all grass now. That wasn't like that 10 years ago.
No.
We are gonna take that little sandbar off, right, let the water flow back through there again.
Yep, that's all gotta come up, but that's the last step. Once all the rest of
That's.
you'd open that, then you get your flow back. And it's gonna flow.
That's what I was looking for, that lovely photo.
That's the thing,
And that's why I thought it should be mechanical, honestly.
It's like.
If it can be done hydraulic, great.
Honestly, put a seawall on the other end of it and make your park bigger.
But I got another question for you. When you're setting that contraption down on the
Yeah.
south end, you're actually gonna dig a hole, so you're gonna do kind of pocket down there on the bottom of that thing, isn't it? Or are you kind of sloping that in as you go?
You gotta, I'm sorry, I apologize, I had to, one of our team members just dropped off a truck for us. The one out there, this is Jones Fish. Frank's gonna be driving it back. We'll see. He just came up from Fort Wayne this morning to bring us another vehicle. My apologies. You're on the south side.
South end where we start,
Yeah,
and that thing in there. You're gonna create a, like this and then go, or is it kind
The
of
box, he's
tapered?
talking about the box. When you make your first cut.
There gonna be a pocket down there, kind of a silt pocket?
can you bring that Onyx back up? So like down here, I mean, this is kind of the dredge area.
Yes, sir.
So we'll start in, in here somewhere and try to float down to dredge depth in that area. So I mean, I'm not, we're gonna drop the cutter head here 5 foot and start moving forward. Now we try to do it. We can, the cutter head on our dredges raises and lowers off a ladder with a winch. So we can raise and lower it to dredge depth, right? But what we can't do is when we're swinging it, we can't like raise it, drop it, cut, raise it. It's very difficult to maintain that. But coming into here, we can slope this into dredge depth, from that end. Am I answering your question or am I dancing around it?
I think so.
I'm not trying to dance around it.
He's gonna taper it, in other words.
Yeah, it will create some taper in here, so it's not like this flat drop coming into here, type of thing. If this is the dredge area, based on those pictures, right? Well, that's where you want to dredge the material, so maybe it's coming out here and starting into it. You know what I mean? So. I don't know where you're at out here. I mean, if we got a dredge depth, water depth here of 5 foot. I'm assuming a lot of this area out here is already 5 foot, so we're just gonna be. Dredging into the topography surrounding it. Does that make sense?
It's lurking.
And you won't notice it anyway, because, you know, with the river flowing through it, it's gonna smooth out anything anyway, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we won't see it till the next drawdown,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Is there any chance of, churning stuff up there? Is it gonna settle farther down? Cause probably about 200 yards down the river or so farther. It's a natural stone bottom, but we're already probably less than 2 foot deep in places. It's touch and go to get a boat through there sometimes already.
There will be a bit of a plume around the cutter head, especially if it's organics. It's not significant that it's gonna make any difference that you'll ever know.
Okay.
Most of the material is sucked up through the dredge.
All right,
Yeah, you won't, we're not gonna pile, from the disturbance around the cutter head as we're dredging, we're not gonna create, 2, 4, 2, we're not gonna, and you won't notice if we're right in this area. You're not gonna see if it added an inch of organics in there, it won't.
okay.
It's a very light, very small pattern, around the dredge, that you're gonna see, because most of it's gonna be sucked up that pipeline and pumped up to the homes.
Yeah, I think we'll. In an operation like this, I'm sure we're gonna see some loss,
Yeah,
float away, if you will. But like John was asking, is it gonna be a mud pie? Discoloration? Probably not, because of the suction.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have, and that's where the silt fence that he was talking about, it's gonna go right under that anyway.
Yeah.
Unless you actually build something that's rigid, top to bottom, water surface to the bottom.
You'd have to build a
Stop the
dam in
flow
there.
completely.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can control that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's not a feasible option, I don't think, anyway.
No, so they put it in our permits, sometimes we'll drop a turbidity current in, because they don't really tell us how to do it, they just say we have to use it. It's a fake it to make thing, how's that for transparency? We pick through permits and accomplish the things in it that does make sense, and the stupid things they ask us to do that we just can't be compliant with, we're not. A lot of the stuff that you're talking about, I mean, your primary flows through here, even down in through here, you're not gonna have a high. Flow through this area. Even post dredging, it's just not the original natural course of the river, which is most of the flow will remain. Yeah, I don't know how long it took to get to this state, 50 years.
93.
Huh? 93, this was dredged before. Yeah,
So
28 years.
the difference is by doing this, it will create flow, which we do not have now. So it will allow particles to either continue or honestly, start refilling.
It's gonna start refilling.
And
Or
so
river-
that being the case, we can, at this point, for us. Measure it, watch it, see how long it takes, what's our frequency, what should it be to keep it open? And flowing versus digging it out in 93 and saying, see you later. Because now we're at this point where it has to be cleaned up. So to get a frequency, we'll watch it now, once it's done, and see how long it takes to refill or start refilling, and then we can calculate out, does it need to be another 6 years or 8 years or 4 years? We don't know.
Yeah.
And that's just a maintenance issue after that.
I can tell you in 2014, I could literally put my pontoon in Riviera Park. I could actually dock it.
Yeah, I could too.
Do you know where Route 13 is at Surrey and Old State?
Surrey and Olmsted.
Go over there, I'll show you guys some stuff from 93.
And I can tell you, I actually docked my pontoon at the LIPOA park across the road there and didn't have any problems this year. I docked in there and unloaded and I drove away.
So you're saying it worked, you're saying everything worked out like it was supposed to.
The dredge part, that area.
Doing good.
Okay, here we go.
Before I had to go to the south park and Cause I couldn't get it off that part.
Pretty documented.
Backwards.
Right
here.
That's a pretty ramp in there now, isn't it?
Yeah, works good.
Good. There it is.
You was.
Zoom in there, so you have to- So this is another dredging project we're doing this year, Lake 13. And the reason I want to show you, so we boundaried all these are our anticipated dredge boxes, that 50 by 75s. See this yellow area up here? This is their inlet stream. These are the dredge areas. If you scroll back out, you can see our holding cell up there where we're building it currently. This area right here, all of this is dredging to 3.5 foot deep cuts. This area right here, we're dredging to a 6 foot depth. Because it is an inlake, or sometimes referred to as an in-situ silt trap. So you create an area that's, I think in this case, 100 by 300, so when that inlet stream is flowing in, you give a settling basin for silt and sediment. And then this became a larger dredging project we're doing this year. But the idea is to create that silt trap so that you can maintenance dredge there. You get it there before it fills in this whole area. The only reason I point this out to you is, we can't probably do it now because we're not permitted that way. But you could look at in the future, doing the same thing, dredging an area in the river at a deeper depth with the idea of creating an in-stream.
That's what we did at Birch is.
Yep.
We came back from the launch and we went 2 feet deeper, that whole width of the launch all the way out, and we tied in where that creek is coming from the north to tie into that channel to shoot out now, as opposed to meandering across the bay to get out. So we won't see what that looks like until drawdown next year, but basically that's exactly what we did at Birch is we cut
Yeah.
that channel
Yeah.
from the launch out for the deep, and then we try to get our flowing water to flow through that to keep that flushed.
Gotcha. Maybe back out a little bit, Tim, you'll see the old Missoula construction site, we're almost done with that, they're running out pipe and go up, just back out a little bit more. It's north of there.
No, it's north up here.
Yeah, see all the marks in onyx? So yeah, that's the whole cell on that one. Frank and team has built out the pipeline coming down to here along the road, return water lines, et cetera, type of things.
Now, is your intention then to float this pipe? Or when you're placing it, are you going to float the pipe downstream or are you going to sink it?
We will float it,
You will float it. Okay.
yes. From Lucky's property, we're gonna look at it today. It's easiest to fusion weld up there.
Sure.
We take the end of the pipeline, tape a plastic bag over it, or we'll put a pipe cap on the end of it, so it keeps water, air in the pipeline. So that after we start bringing it, and we're fusing 50 foot at a time, pushing it out, and then sometimes takes a team at the lead edge of that pipe, feeding it down south to steer it through the river. So yeah, it'll be floating.
Okay, well, can you then make sure or try as best you can that it comes down the east side of the river shoreline, which is on our island side, the park side? Because of the residents we have on north part of Lake Isabella live on the west side of the river, on Lucky's side. So we want, that's gonna run right, that's gonna run right.
You say it's cross the river by the bridge and leave it on the east side and it comes
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, during the assembly of the pipeline and construction, it will be floating and boaters will not be able to pass over it. Once we get a dredge here and we hook up and we start pumping water through that pipeline, then we do barrel, like you saw that in the videos, the teams use those barrels to gauge weight and sediment in we don't necessarily let that pipeline sink because it means it's too heavy and we're pumping too hard. So they use those barrels to gauge, what we're pumping and if we can handle it with the dredge. So yeah, there will be this interruption of time while we're building out this whole new cell and feeding pipeline down to here with a loop behind it. And you know, I hear you saying like, so these property owners through here are all,
They're Lake Isabel residents.
really, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay, so if we can attach the pipeline
Yes.
to the east shore,
Sure.
and make people happy.
Cause that runs down Carmen Park. That's all, pretty much all our property down through there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you only have a couple of homes past the island. You got Bellinger's. Morton.
Okay.
Right here, but yeah, this is all LIPOA, and then
Yeah, Bellinger's in there.
Yeah.
you don't have
So
another
what
house
we
to
might
get
be
up
able
here
to
to the
do in
bridge.
the interim, while we're gonna construct the whole new style, start fusing pipe. And until we get the dredge here, let's say I'm right, August 1st-ish, you know, and then because we're gonna probably, that was the other question. We just talked about a launch here, it looked like a pretty crappy launch. I'm anticipating we're gonna put the dredge in at Birch Park.
Birch or South.
South, yeah.
What's the launch like? Oh, South Park. Okay.
That's pretty steep, short, but steep, fairly steep.
For people that have docks, is it feasible to run the pipe under their dock?
Yeah.
Well, if you're going like,
I'd like not to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the pipe, the wind can move the pipe.
Sure.
And if the pipe's gonna,
I'm thinking
it's
if
gonna
we're,
move, I'm
if
worried
we're on
about
the
crushing.
shore, you only got, 3 or 4 potential waterfront people that are gonna get impacted.
How many people in the dredge area have docks? I
but the
mean,
thing is, Tim, even if we did, I like the idea, but even if we did that. That pipe still has to cross over someplace.
At some point, even down by the river or
Yeah.
by the bridge.
once we got the dredge hooked up and we're pumping water, and so we can drop areas of the pipe for people to cross. Or even if it's just sitting there, once it's filled with water, intelligent boaters can go up, hit the pipe, it'll drop.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know, Frank and I just had this conversation. He says, you know, common sense. I said, come on, Frank, you assume common sense. So we do work with people that like, they'll drive up to the pipe when it's filled with water, you know, drive over it, and then they lift their tilt where their prop's rolling over, you know, an out drive or the prop is rolling over the pipe and they won't hit it.
Well, how do you fix that pipe after you're already pumping?
How do you fix it?
After.
If it
gets-
breaks, you mean?
If it gets cut.
Flex seal.
Maybe, we have clamps that we can put around, they got a seal, sometimes we have to cut it. And then we will, instead of fusion welding, because it's already in the water, we'll drive on pipe flanges, we don't like to, but. If we do, and if we get a break like that, and we had it several times working on Great Lakes projects where people won't know the pipe was there driving at night. Even though we try to illuminate it, we use orange barrels, we paint stuff. Yeah, and then they're drunk and they hit it, you know, 30 miles an hour going across the water and break the pipe, and then it costs us the whole next day. You know, fixing the pipeline, they screwed up, but yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, if we do the best to manage pipelines in a way that's not gonna affect your boaters. We try to minimize the effect to the property owners. Anybody in that dredge area that has a dock should remove it if they can. We can do a better job for that property owner. Dredging, we can work around docks, but we're gonna stay 10 foot away from it.
You
Most
tell
of them
me
are permanent.
what you will have to do is let me know when you are going to be in those areas, and I'll give those homeowners heads up.
Just tentatively plan August 1st, let them know to take their trucks out.
Okay,
Okay? You know, we're gonna be there with the dredge somewhere between that August 1st and August 15th. And we can do a better job for them in front of their property if their dock's not in our way. If it's a permanent dock, we don't have a choice. I don't know if anybody has permanent docks. You know,
there's one up there.
so then it is.
So I have no idea when it was placed, but
Is it a
what's up there?
cantilever dock? Is it hanging over the river or is it moored?
It's up there by where the crossing is to the island.
It's kind of like a cantilever dock hanging off the shore that we can work under with the cutter at, but if it's got posts or
Steel post can't
Yeah.
be moved.
same thing, we're gonna stay 10 foot away from it, cause I don't know what that is, yeah. If the property owner's willing to sign off and you guys are happy, we'll dredge right up to it, if it falls in the water, not my problem.
Well, it's really not associated to a person.
There's just some random dock somehow, somewhere,
Sometimes
appeared.
okay.
years ago.
For sure. You got a record of that? Yeah, like Well, I can see posted, I thought that was one of those cantilever docks, you see them a lot on,
I believe that's it right there, actually.
this one?
Yep.
So you don't even have somebody to take it out, cause you don't know who owns it.
Nobody owns it. Nobody uses it.
Why don't we just take it out?
Somebody put it there a long time ago.
Whose property is it on? Somebody owns the land.
That's in Playa Park, George.
If that's in Playa Park, just pull
It's
it
at the
out.
very south end of Playa
If
Park.
it's ours.
If it's your, ours, pull it out.
Well, that's true. It could be ours. I didn't think of it like that. It's somehow set in concrete or something. It can't be moved.
Get it out before we get there, if you wanna.
Tim's got it back.
I got a backhoe, I bet we can move.
Chain it and move it.
Oh, I'll even come over and run it.
Yeah.
That could be fun, kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, your demo work, right?
Yeah.
Next year you get your own video of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, put it on YouTube when it's over.
fundraiser. whoever pays the most
This guy wouldn't remove his dock, so we took care of it.
This is what happens if you piss us off, we're gonna take your dock out.
I guarantee you show up with a backhoe, you're gonna find out real quick if somebody owns it.
Somebody thinks they own it, right? Even if it's on your part. Where'd that dock go that we've used for 100 years, but now it's gone? We didn't know it was yours.
No, what dock?
Nobody used that one. Can't get at it.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
I would wager that was put in the 70s.
Yeah.
By somebody who had a good thought.
Same game.
I was around then, but I don't remember that doc. I remember a doc then. When I was 18, what did I do? I was just happy I wasn't going to Vietnam.
I wonder.
I never was high enough.
You didn't get it, anybody?
271.
Any
Any
other
other
questions for Guy?
Think we're good.
Oh,
Thank you.
I understand, I wanna make sure we all are in agreement that George is gonna be our primary contact for Frank while we're out here. You guys all good with that?
Yep.
Everybody solid with that? All I gotta do is hook up George with Frank, vice versa. You guys will be happy with that?
You could use some of the George.
Get some work out of George? George, how long you been here? 15 years now? 10, 15 years anyway.
13, just hit 13,
Just a kid.
this last week.
Actually.
21
you're
years.
Still up there, your predecessor, right, Al Alcides?
Yeah.
I think he's up in Oscoda by us. I think he, at least one time I bumped
Yeah.
into him, he was,
He is from Parks and Rec for him.
I was rec for,
The community center is what is, I think he moved
Yeah.
over to that.
I bumped into him a couple times up
That'd
there.
be nice to him too. He just turned 65. He's now officially a senior
Oh,
citizen.
Who, George?
Free coffee.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Best thing about it was I got to move up one set of tees on the golf course.
Playing the ladies now?
Yeah. It's all gold. I went to the gold.
We're seeing him in shorts, you know better.
Oh.
So, according to the GIS, that dock is sitting in front of Lori Davis's house at 1029 North. And the next one's down here at,
Cinder Destroyer guy up there, he'll fix it.
yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that shape right there of that dock matches that shape right here.
Yeah.
There's a house there?
Yeah.
On the previous picture?
Is that in the park or is that south?
That's south of the park, it's south of the entrance, right here's the park entrance. So this is how this area looked in 2009.
I think that.
Here's how it looks in 2020. I think that dock is right here.
I think that is it.
Yeah.
We'll see when we go out there.
As you come in right here and this
That's
is
our drive.
all,
Right.
this is all now just soon to be bigger park.
That's private property. We gotta have an owner for that.
Yeah, I don't think you're touching that dock.
Well, I've got that lift on the front of our pontoon boat with the lid for an engine. We could chain it, maybe pull those posts out of there.
If you don't.
I'm not even sure you're allowed to have.
You know what? You guys take it out, and if you find out later on it was actually on her property, then at least it's gone while we're dredging, you can replace her dock at a later time.
I'm not so sure you're allowed to have it permanent.
What do you think?
Fixed dock. Can't shut it.
You
I
want
mean,
to
yeah, probably can't.
never know.
Nope.
Thank you.
I don't see us having a real meeting until we get something started, dude.
So Frank and I are gonna follow Lucky over to his property. We'll get your Frank's number, get your number, till we can communicate. Then we're gonna probably spend maybe, I'm guessing, an hour, let's just say, with Lucky at his property, his boundary, and making sure. From there, we're gonna go to
Back over to
Common Park,
Riviera, I'll show you around over there.
Riviera. So, are you gonna go up with us, George? So,
I won't go with you for Lucky, but when you get done with
I'll give you a
you
call.
come back by my office, or call me and I'll meet you.
okay. Yeah, I mean, just come by your office, cause I got to get in there
You
anyway.
gotta come by, yeah.
So I could show Frank the dredging project you did on Birch Bay. And we can look at the launch there. Reasonable. Make sure, I mean, I know that's deep enough. You know, we gotta back in our semi. Step
You
deck
don't have
trailer.
a problem getting in Birch.
Our semi on the trailer, the dredge on the trailer probably weighs 50,000. You poured thick concrete, right? And you pour that 6 inch.
6 inch.
It's six, yeah.
Yeah. Last fall,
That's heavy.
last fall.
Well, December.
Getting in is easy first, getting in.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll take a look at that while we're.
They were center a lot more than that.
As long as you don't scar that concrete up when you're pulling it, or dropping it in.
It goes out a ways, that's what we look at.
If that's a low boy, I'm guessing it's a low boy.
Got that.
Oh, okay.
South Park's probably closer anyway.
I think it would be.
It might be, we can go look at that too.
That concrete's got there for.
Either way, the dredge doesn't have mobility on it, so wherever we put it in, we gotta drag it around with one of our work posts.